Male pattern baldness affects 50% of men past their 40s. Being the loser of the genetic lottery you are, do you want to be the bigger person and support those who are lucky enough to still use shampoo, or do you want to drag everyone else down to your pathetic level? If you chose the latter, whip out the fancy polish and pawn your bitch wife's ring so you can build modern 8-rack. Playing against 8-rack is like fist fighting your drunk uncle at the age of 13. It's gruesome, humiliating, and you know the bastard will be back next Friday to do it again. Most people like to practice basic human empathy, but you're bald and you need to boost your self-esteem by shit-stomping the local middle school's magic club. I will be your guide and mentor through this process. Let's get started. The deck's called 8-rack, but nowadays it's more like 4-rack plus Urza's Saga. It's centered around the namesake card, the rack. The rack, in basic terms, attaches to the player of your choice. That player then takes damage for any amount of cards they have in their hand less than 3 every upkeep. So if they have 2, they take 1 damage. If they have 1, they take 2 damage. And if they have 0, they take 3 damage. This is our main win con. We want to make our opponent keep discarding cards, keep taking damage, and keep going to therapy. So how do we do that? There's a slew of ways to make players discard cards in Magic the Gathering. 2 of the best at this are Thoughtseize and Inquisition of Kozilek. Both of these cards say to look at our opponent's hand and make them discard either a non-land card with mana value 3 or less in the case of Inquisition, or any non-land card with Thoughtseize at the cost of 2 life. These not only get rid of the best card in their hand, but also lets us get a look at everything else we're going to make them discard. Since a player draws at least 1 card every turn cycle, going 1 for 1 will never get their hand low enough to take damage from our rack. To do this, we need recurring discard effects. You have Raven's Crime, which you can discard lands to and get tons of utility from, and the Mommy Dominatrix herself, Liliana of the Veil. Just like real life, Mommy makes our incel opponents waste resources on her, getting rid of a card every time we tick her up, and getting absolutely nothing out of it but some eye candy. With these combined, we have our opponent discarding their cards at a destructively rapid pace. Add some cheap removal to get rid of everything that slips through the cracks, and you have a solid mono-black control list that inflicts misery and suffering upon anyone stupid enough to think this game is fun. However, this nightmare evolved into a night terror when wizards pulled down their pants and sat their stinky ass all up on the format with Modern Horizons 2, making way for the marvel of game design known as Urza's Saga. Urza's Saga is a saga. At level 1, it's simply a land that taps for 1 colorless mana. At level 2, you can pay 2 generic and tap Urza's Saga to create a 0/0 artifact creature that gets +1/+1 for each artifact you control, counting itself. At level 3, it sacrifices itself and lets you search your library for an artifact that costs 0 or 1. Conveniently, the rack costs 1. You can see where this is going. Not only does it find the rack, it gives you another win con in case, God forbid, your one-note strategy ends up being one note. With a little trick you can do where you activate the second ability in response to the third, triggering on your turn, you end up making 2 creatures instead of 1, giving you 2 3/3s after searching for your artifact. While your opponent can't get any of their game plan going due to the constant discard, simply kill them with the rack or beat them to death with your encroaching army of AI Twitter Kanye defenders. This will cause severe emotional distress and will surely make your poor adversary rip their hair out in clumps, drawing them ever closer to you and the other 50%. You shiny-headed prick.